Okay, how's it going, guys? So I've been doing some figuring out about how long it takes to do the TET. Now, obviously, there's a lot of variables in here and my system may not be perfect, but let me just tell you what I did, my practical testing and how I'm working this out, basically. So I've done all of the Cornish TET, so I've done all of the Great Western Trail, which goes through Cornwall and a little bit of Devon. But I've not done much else. So my workings out is all going to be based on that. And I know obviously some parts of the country are going to be much trickier and some parts of the country are going to be faster on faster roads. So that is what I'm extrapolating from. I'm basing everything on that. So there's going to be a huge margin for error. The further I project, the bigger the margin of error. Just going on what I've done myself. Now, I did all of the Cornish TET in lots of little sections. So I can't say, oh, I did it in 2 days or whatever. I did lots and lots of runs, and I've done tons of it multiple times just for fun. But I've always done it in half a day trip, basically, you know, leave in the morning and then get back in the afternoon. Big chunks of my journey have been getting to the ride start and then riding and then getting back home again. But either way, I've done all of it and I left my GoPro running for huge sections of it. So I've got a pretty good way of looking at the distance and looking at the time and looking at how much of it was, you know, off-road. When I say off-road, I mean unsealed roads, gravel, rock, mud, all the rest of it, and then how much of it was just you know, regular kind of winding country roads and all that kind of thing. So yeah, so I've got that to base on, but I also did a quick test yesterday. I did the TET from just a small section. I went from Helston to Land's End, which is 33 miles, sticking to the TET alone with no stopping and basically just going at a pace that was trying to get to the end. Not, you know, I wasn't breaking the speed, I wasn't going too fast down the lanes, so I couldn't stop if I saw a horse or anything like that. I wasn't riding dangerously, but I was riding purposefully and trying to actually cover some ground just to see what the pace would be. Now, that section doesn't actually have that many off-road sections. It's only about 15% off-road, but there is lots of slow sections in that section which kind of would pull your average down just as it would if it had more off-road sections. There's even like one stretch which is like a 5 mile an hour limit, and I also got stuck briefly coming out of Mousehole with, you know, summer traffic and things like that, because even though it's a weekday, it's summertime down here, so it gets a bit busier. Either way, so I did that, and so looking at all of my footage for doing the Cornish TET, and looking at that little test that I did yesterday, which was just 33 miles. And I did those 33 miles in 85 minutes, by the way. So looking at all that and sort of weighing it all up, I've come to a conclusion that a conservative estimate is 2.6 minutes per TET mile, which is only actually averaging about 23, 24 miles an hour, which is pretty slow. Considering some stretches of it, you know, I literally am doing 60 miles an hour plus on the fast bits, but then obviously on the lanes, you know, you're bringing right the way down to about, you know, 15 miles an hour or thereabouts on the sort of slow twisty stuff. So it really brings your average right down, and obviously, you know, traffic and other things like that are factors. So let's extrapolate from that. So 2.6 minutes per mile. So if you wanted, for instance, to do the whole of the Cornish TET, so the Great Western Trail, the GWT, which goes through Cornwall alone, I know that it goes further afield, but if you just want to do the Cornish leg, now that is 265 miles. At 2.6 minutes per mile, that means you'd be getting it done in 11.5 hours of continuous riding. So let's say, for the basis of all of this stuff, let's say we're going to say that you're comfortable riding for 8 hours a day, 8 hours non-stop. Now, I realise that is a lot of riding, but let's say, you know, that's doable and that's what you want to do. That means you could easily do the TET Cornwall in 1.5 days. So one day riding 8 hours, the next day riding 4 hours. So you could do it in 2 days. And when I say comfortably, I mean non-stop, but not like riding like a demon. So that's kind of what we've come up with for that. So, but you know, I would add on to this. I would definitely add on to time. If you're planning a trip yourself, you're going to be wanting to stop. You're going to be wanting to take photos. You're going to be wanting to stop and chat, and you might get stuck for a moment. So you might need to help your mate out of a hole or something like that. So I would definitely just add a day onto all of these, just to kind of, you know, give you a comfortable sort of buffer. But either way, TET Cornwall, 1.4 days is my workings out, riding at 8 hours per day. So 11.5 hours of continuous riding to do the TET Cornwall. Right, that's that one out of the way. Now let's have a look at the GWT for all of it. So the GWT goes right the way up into, you know, Devon, Somerset, Wiltshire, Dorset, goes way further afield than just Cornwall. And that is 810 miles for the whole of the GWT loop down to Land's End and back up again. Now, I worked that at so it's 35.1 hours of continuous riding, which is, if you're looking at 8-hour riding days, that's 4.5 days. So 4 days of continuous riding, 8 hours each of those 4 days, and then another half day. So 4.5 days non-stop. Well, when I say non-stop, you know, you're riding for 8 hours per day. Remember that. So yeah, so that's the whole of the GWT, the Great Western Trail. Now the TET UK. Let's say, for example, just to extrapolate and make our margin for error even bigger, the whole of the TET UK, according to the TET website, is 3,298 miles. At my 2.6 minute per mile average, which may or may not be the same as yours, would be 143 hours of continuous riding. So that's 6 solid days without sleep riding. So looking at that in the 8-hour sort of window. So if you're going to be riding 8 hours every single day, non-stop, then that's 17.9, so 18 days basically. 18 days riding at 8 hours per day, and you could, in theory, do the entire of the TET UK. Now, I don't for a second believe you would ever do that, so you'd have to be absolutely going for some kind of crazy record, I think, to do that. But maybe you're hardcore, maybe you really could do 8 hours every single day non-stop without, you know, anything. You know, I'm not including stopping for lunch with that or anything. So the minute you stop for lunch, just adding 20 minutes on, that's another 20 minutes you have to ride in the afternoon to make up your 8 hours. Either way, that would be hardcore. That would be seriously hardcore. So, but in theory, according to my average that I've worked out, you could do the whole of the TET UK in 18 days, riding, you know, 8-hour days every single day. So there you go, guys. I hope that was useful. I've obviously, you know, I tried to do my research elsewhere before working out my own madcap science experiment sort of calculations here. But you ask people online that have actually done big sections of the TET, and even they give you, you know, wildly sort of varying estimates, and some people just do it literally 3 times faster than other people, because, you know, some people just really go at a nice sedate, you know, taking in the scenery rate, and some people actually really cover ground and they're really serious riders and they really go for it. So it's really hard to put an estimate on any of this, but I've done my best considering what and how much of the TET I've ridden so far, and hopefully I got my maths, you know, roughly about right. So yeah, so hopefully that helps. So for me, at my pace, trying to cover ground but not riding crazy fast, 2.6 minutes per TET mile is a fairly conservative average. Giving me those totals again, so the GWT Cornwall could do that in 1.5 days. The whole of the GWT would take 4.5 days, and the whole of the TET UK would take 18 days. Bear in mind that's riding for 8 hours every single day without stop. Anyway, guys, I hope that was useful. It certainly helped me figure out how to plan some of my further afield trips and how many days I need to camp and things like that. Have I got it massively wrong? I don't know. You tell me. Some people out there have way more experience than I am. So if you are and you know that this is a massively over or under estimate, then let me know down in the comments below, and that will be really helpful for us guys that are trying to plan our longer trips. Anyway, thanks a lot, and I'll catch you later.